And welcome back. We are celebrating the Day of the Dead with representatives from the Embassy of Mexico. We have Mr. Hugo Juarez Carrillo, who is the press officer for the embassy, and Mr. Diego Sapien Munos, who is the cultural attache for the embassy. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being
Buenos
here.
días. Good morning.
Good morning. So the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. Tell us more about the celebration.
Well, in Mexico, it's for the Indian population was the most important day of the year, because the crop of corn finished in these dates, and at the same time is part of their cosmology, that they think about death not like something that marks the finishing of life, but a change of life.
Okay.
And because of that, they created all these. You could say, well, altars, we call it now, that represent the way they think about the universe, and the way that the death are going to go to another better place after they die. Especially if they die doing something good. They did so good.
Yeah. I love how you tie in the history or tradition when it comes to agriculture and a way of life.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting how Dia de los Muertos, which is celebrated the 1st and the 2nd, right?
1st and the 2nd, yes.
Is tied in around the religious celebration of All Souls Day and what has become a wider spread tradition of celebrating Halloween. What are the links to these celebrations, or are there any links to these celebrations?
Yeah, there's the link with the All Souls Day, not with Halloween. Halloween is mainly just because of the date, close by the date. Actually, some celebrations begin 2 or 3 days, even a week before, in some small towns, some villages in Mexico. But it's only near the day with Halloween.
Okay.
Maybe in the northern part of the country, we have more influences with the United States, and people celebrate Halloween.
Yeah.
But today is gaining ground, the Day of the Dead in the northern part of the countries, and mainly it's a central and southern part of the country where it's where it's more festive and where people go do it every year by the date.
Yeah. And the links to the religious celebration of All Souls Day?
Yeah. Yep. The thing is that when the Spaniards came, this is a millennial celebration that's been for among the Indian population for many centuries. When the Spaniards came, they link the celebration of the dead that already have the Indian groups with the Catholic celebration of the Day of the Dead, that actually is today, November the 2nd, and yesterday that we remember the small children that died, Dia de los Santos Inocentes. And well, they still have the same elements that you will see in our altar here in Belize City, as well as in our altar there in Belmopan. The same elements, but mixed. It's a syncretic cultural thing where we mix the Indian celebration with the Christian celebration, because we will see that there's the saints or a cross always in these altars. And the Mexican culture is so alive that, as Diego said, we take from other places, other cultures, and make it grow, as is now the celebration in Mexico.
How prominent is it across Mexico?
It's one of the most celebrated, more festive days in Mexico. Yeah, actually, this past weekend it was the first parade of the Day of the Dead in Mexico City. We have different parades from Mexico. We have the 16th of September. We have the 20th of November, the Mexican Revolution. But yeah, this was the first, and this Day of the Dead, everybody goes because it's different. It's a different ways of doing the celebration. And you go to the cemetery, and then you have it in your house with the altar, like the representation that we have here at the Mexican Cultural Institute.
And let's talk about Madame Sugar Skull, La
Catrina.
La Catrina, yes. Very integral part of the celebration, but For those of us who perhaps didn't grow up with the tradition, we don't understand the connection. So what is the connection? And I've seen so many people use this costume. I don't know if they know it is tied to this specific celebration.
Well,
what is the connection?
You could trace the La Catrina to the end of the 19th century. This Catrina is a creation of a very festive creation of a Mexican artist, Jose Guadalupe Posadas, that created many graphic publications where he used La Catrina. He used the skeletons, very well dressed, female and male, very well dressed from the time, or dressed as different types of social classes in the Mexican pre-revolutionary up before 1910, and he used it as a way of mocking the very powerful, the abusers, and at the same time to draw how was the social situation in Mexico, in central Mexico especially, in that time. And he used La Catrina in order to do that. And we took it for the celebration of the Day of the Dead, because if you see the traditional altars, you don't see Catrinas there. This is something that is again
more modern.
Exactly, and it's taken by the Mexican population and used in a festive way to celebrate the deeds of the person that you put in the altar.
Even before that, the pre-Hispanic in pre-Columbian times, Aztecs, Mayas, every civilization used to represent with skulls death. So it's also a derivation from that. It has, like Hugo says, no, it's a syncretic, it's a combination between the old, the modern, and the Catrina, it's mainly
it's a more ornate skull because it had the artist influence.
Exactly.
Do you find that a lot of young people are finding cultural relevance in terms of, you know, the art that comes out of the Dia de los Muertos?
Yes, especially when you see the parade that we had. 4 years ago, we had a movie that was filmed in Mexico City by Hollywood people, the 007 James Bond. That the first scenes were in Mexico City, and it was a parade of Catrinas that didn't exist. Then we took it again in order to make something new that now we have every year, and is very well organized. Actually, yesterday, President Peña Nieto received the organizers that went to Los Pinos, and they were dressed as they were last weekend. This is something that we embrace a lot. The young people embrace us a lot. They love it, and I think it's a way of rebirth of something that was not that common when I was a children.
It's fantastic to see the evolution of the tradition taking place. But of course, like all traditions, it's important to maintain the roots and the purposes as to why these activities take place. And I know when it comes to the altar, every aspect of it is very specific. It has a specific purpose.
Actually, it's a family event because everyone participates, you know, because if you have it for your abuelita, your grandma, your granddad, you could put something that you as a nephew or as a son, you could put your thing that your abuelita liked, that you remember her about. So it's a thing that everyone participates in the family core, even friends from your block, you know, start to build the altar with different elements. You had I don't know if it's different elements that the altar has to have. You know, it has 3 planes. The altar.
It has to have three.
It has 3 levels, mainly 3 levels: earth, heaven, and the underworld, where the dearly departed go back, so they know how to go back. Also, you gotta have a passageway, a little bit a camino, like a road. So those elements, you're going to see them in the altar. That is going to be, we have in the Mexican Institute and in Belmopan. And you gotta have a dog.
You have to have a dog?
A dog representation.
Why is a dog represented?
Because the dog goes with the death. goes with the dead and shows him the way into the underworld, then to earth, and then to heaven. Also, you gotta have a wooden stick, so the dead person defends himself from other spirits or obstacles that he may find.
Okay, so you're really preparing them for this journey to come to the altar
Exactly.
and enjoy their favorite food. Why is it that we always remember the food portion?
Because the idea is that on the November the 1st, the soul of your relative is going to come to the altar and is going to eat. He's going to stay 24 hours with us, eating, drinking, and you have to make him her comfortable in the altar and feel that he's familiar with all of this. That's the idea.
Also during his journey, well, it's not easy going to the underworld, then going to heaven, and then going to earth. So it's a difficult task for the spirit to go.
Do you put
so that's why it also has has a glass of water, something to drink, because when he arrives to the altar, actually when he's enjoying his favorite food, well, he has been to a long journey to get to the altar and get to your house or get to the cemetery.
Fantastic. Veladoras, candles.
Has to have the 4 elements of the universe: earth, water, wind, and fire.
Also very important, the incense or copal.
The copal.
The flor de cempasúchil also.
What is
the
flor?
Cempasúchil is a special flower. It's very yellowish.
Oh, okay. Yes.
It's a wildflower, and it is believed that it only grows in the cemeteries. So that's why, and also has a very particular smell. You know?
Cemetery smell.
Like a cemetery smell, but it's mixed with the copal. The copal also calls for the spirit to come back.
Copal has a very distinct smell.
It's a very distinct smell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how is the embassy celebrating the Dia de los Muertos?
Actually, we have 2 altars. We have one altar here dedicated to Teodoro González de León. He was an architect, very famous architect worldwide, that built, among other buildings, the Mexican embassy in Belmopan, the Institute of Mexico here in Belize, the Embassy of Mexico in Guatemala, as well the Mexican embassies in Brazil, in Brasilia, and in Berlin. And this is him.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of work, mainly as Diego said once, in Mexico City. It's a very civil buildings, especially for trade or for departments. And well, he just passed away few months ago. And what we think is that you do not really die till you are forgotten. Then what we do in Mexico is to build these altars on the 2nd of November in order to remember the deeds of the people and not to forget them. And in Belmopan, we will have a altar dedicated to Juan Gabriel, that you know, passed few weeks ago. And well, we are remembering them because they really did very good things.
Yeah, they contributed a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. Then we don't want to forget them, as the families do not want to forget their deaths.
Now, is it typical that the altar is for someone who recently passed?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but
it
usually tends to be someone who died between the 2nd of November 2015 and 2nd of November. Usually, and also in some cases in museums or in public spaces, you gotta have someone who is a celebrity or someone famous, someone important to their community. In some villages, they have some important person, an elderly that was very important to the community.
There's the dog.
So
that's the dog. You're right. There's money. Is that money?
There's money also.
Yes.
There's money also. Maybe the dead
to pay for favors on the way back.
Yeah, maybe get a taxi on their way to the altar.
So it's treating them like they're alive and they're coming for a journey and offering everything that
you're inviting them to dinner.
Yeah. And the pan de muerto?
Pan de muerto. We have one pan de muerto for you, and we didn't know that you would be here.
Okay.
And well, pan de muerto is a special bake that we have only for this time.
Yeah.
Somewhere I read yesterday that 86% of Mexicans will eat pan de muerto tonight. And it's well, it has a special flavor, special way of being baked.
It's not regular bread.
It's not regular bread. It's a bread that is only baked for these days.
For this occasion, yeah.
Yeah.
They have many difference with fruit or sugar or not sugar. They have different, but it has also like the representation of 4 elements. You have different types. The bread also has
it has a cross on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's only eaten around this time.
Yes,
exactly.
You also have sugar, the sugar skulls.
The sugar skulls. They're also a representation, you know, from the pre-Hispanic times and pre-Columbian times, also because death was represented with skulls. And in many workplaces and offices, you put your name in the skull.
Because it's a way of mocking the dead.
Because a way of mocking that. It's also that's also another
aspect,
custom or
so
an aspect. No, I think it's one of the main aspects of this celebration of death.
And that's key to understand. Is it more a celebratory exercise, or is it more a reverent exercise?
Has both things.
Okay.
Many families, what they do is they go in the early morning of the 2nd of November to the tomb of the people that died and then clean it. And sometimes they build the altar over there and they eat there.
At the cemetery.
And they have music and they have drinks over there. And others, what they do, they clean it. And after they clean it, they go with him, with the dead, with the soul of the dead, to home where they have the altar, and he's going to spend the night eating what they prepare for him.
Y un poquito de tequila también.
Why not?
what the dearly departed like to drink, you know?
So if they like wine or rum or something else.
Or cerveza,
beer.
everything.
Or cerveza, sí.
And typically, how long do you have the altar up for?
Here in Belize,
we're going to have it until Friday.
Yeah.
Friday, from Monday to Friday, 1 week. We're going to have an exhibition.
We have an exhibition of pictures.
Okay.
About?
But the Day of the Dead, the name of the exhibition is Dia de Muertos in Mexico.
Okay.
So different depictions or different ways of how the Day of the Dead is celebrated in different parts of Mexico.
Yeah.
We have 3 main themes. We have the tianguis and the mercados, where how people go buy their skulls, their flowers, their offerings. We also have another theme that's the offering and the altars, and music and dance, because it's like you said, it's a celebratory, so it's a way to mourn them, but it's a mourn them in a festive way.
Invite them back for dinner and a party.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, where is the biggest celebration or the most famous altar?
Well, maybe the most famous altars are in small island in the middle of a small lake in the state of Michoacán called Janitzio. It's one of the more traditional and where you go with a lot of respect to the houses of the people, and each and every house in the island has their own altar to their own deaths. Some of them gives you food and drink, some of them not, and but everybody opens their house in order to allow their dead to come in. And has been this celebration, not only the Janitzio's one, but the Day of the Dead has been classified by UNESCO as part of the untouchable patrimony of the humanity.
Nice. All right. And what else would you like people to know? You know, I was saying before we went on air, and I'll say it again, in terms of Belize, we have seen that this is celebrated in the north, in the west. We have out on the islands as well. So it has definitely been a tradition that has spread into the country, and the houses of cultures are all having an altar, some type of exhibit as well. But what would you like Belizeans in general to understand about this particular Mexican celebration?
Well, this is a to understand that it's a festive celebration.
Yeah.
It's also a way, and we want to invite them to participate and to visit the Mexican Cultural Institute and visit the embassy in Belmopan, just to get to know how we celebrate our dearly departed. It's a celebration. Mainly, I think that is one of the main focuses.
Yeah,
to celebrate, to have Belizeans to know, and maybe if you have a candle, maybe you can bring a picture, maybe you can want to remember your departed, you're welcome to it.
And the exhibit is open all
And
week?
also, all week until
9
Friday.
to 5. And in Belmopan is going to be open only today because it's in the main patio of the it's outside in the main patio of the embassy. Then if you want to go
And we'll be hearing songs by Juan Gabriel all
I'm
day
sure absolutely
in
we will
Belmopan.
hear. Yeah.
That's enough reason to take the trip up.
And also another good reason is to well, try a little pan de muerto.
Well, I will be, it's what, 86% of Mexicans plus 1 Belizean will be having pan de muerto tonight.
Exactly.
Okay, good, very good.
All right.
Well, we just want to invite them, the Belizean population, not only the mestizos and Mexicans, to come to the Institute and to the embassy today at 5:30, that we will have the opening, the official opening of both altars and the opening of the pictures exhibition. And to let them know that this is part of, or we could say, our work here in Belize. We have to show the Belizean population what is the Mexican culture. We are so close, but at the same time, Mexico is a very diverse country. And Mexico is not only the Plaza de las Americas in Chetumal or the Mercado or Cancun. We are much more diverse and rich, and we want to share this richness, cultural richness with the Belizean population.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing with us even more details about this cultural celebration.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having us.
I know I've learned quite a bit as well. So hopefully our viewers will be able to understand more about the significance of Dia de los Muertos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Muchas gracias.
And remember, you can visit the opening of the altars both in Belmopan at the embassy and in Belize City at the Mexican Institute, 5:30 this evening. Don't miss it. We'll be back in a few. Stay tuned.